£20 coin.
Never seen them in my life.
So it's from the Royal Mint, so the same place that all legal tender comes from.
Have you got any other means of payment at the minute?
I don't know. Right. Can I ask why you didn't tell me before you started recording?
So when we go to any incident, our tour of duty and our police protocol is to video every incident we go to achieve the best evidence.
But you've got to notify the person at the first available opportunity.
No, we don't.
You do.
Have you got that from somewhere? Have you read that up somewhere? Or?
Yes, your policy. Yeah.
Okay. Well, at the minute, we're obviously videoing everything because we've been called to an incident. Immediate response where there's some ongoing issue with payment, whether it's a domestic...
999?
Well, that's what's coming as, yeah.
Wow.
Well, we just didn't know what was happening. There was an altercation in the shop, so we've arrived on that instance. Are you going to give me your name?
I'm not, no.
Right, okay. Is there a reason for that?
Because it's a civil matter, and it's not something that the police can get involved in.
To a degree, you're right. It is a civil matter. We can deal with it a different way, but obviously, ultimately, you haven't paid for your fuel.
From the moment she steps onto the scene, it's clear the officer isn't prepared for the situation she's walking into. The auditor immediately spots her body-worn camera and asks why she hasn't stated that it's recording. Official guidance is straightforward. Officers should notify people as soon as practicable when their cameras are running. Rather than acknowledge this, she insists no such requirement exists, which is simply wrong. Things get worse when she starts demanding the auditor's name. This isn't a criminal investigation, it's a civil disagreement between him and the petrol station staff. Without an offense being committed, there is no legal authority to compel someone to identify themselves. Whether she genuinely didn't understand the law or chose to ignore it, either scenario reflects extremely poor practice for someone acting under police powers.
I have.
But they're not accepting that money.
But that's up to them to accept it. If they decline...
They've obviously run the post office and they've declined that. Ultimately, it's a civil issue, but if you're not willing to give us your details, then how do we know that you're going to resolve the civil issue at a later date? If you're happy to give us your details, then we can look at the civil issue at a later date.
But that's a civil issue, that's nothing for the police
to get involved in. But we don't know your details, do we? So you could technically escape from here and never come back and never deal with that issue, then you'd be circulated as wanted for that, won't you, for making off without payment?
That's not a police issue at the minute.
It is. It is a police issue because you've not paid for fuel. So there's still an offence there of that you've not paid for your fuel.
But I have paid. I've gave them...
But you've gave them this coin, yeah, which ultimately they've spoke to the post office and they've decided that it's not a reasonable amount of payment for your fuel. So at the minute we're sort of hands are tied, yeah, agree with you on a certain instance of that, but we still need a solution today whether we take your details and we deal with it at a later date.
From her own words, the officer admits this is a civil dispute, yet immediately tries to invent a power to demand ID so it can be resolved later. That's not how policing works. If there's no suspected offense, there is no lawful authority to compel personal details. She cannot turn a private payment disagreement into a police-enforced identity check simply because the retailer is frustrated. When she implied he could be circulated as wanted, it was pure bluff. Wanted markers apply to criminal matters, suspects, warrants, failures to appear, not civil contract disputes. Using that kind of threat to force compliance is a misuse of authority and a clear sign she had no legal footing to begin with. If she genuinely believed a crime might be taking place, she was required to test the elements: dishonesty, making off without payment, and intent to avoid paying. But none of those apply here. The auditor remained on scene, attempted to pay, and disputed the method of payment, textbook civil territory, not a criminal offense.
So basically, he's trying to pay with this. They've run the post office and said that it doesn't really exist, you can't pay with that. He obviously won't give us our details. I've explained to him to a degree it's a civil matter. However, if he does make off and he doesn't give us our details, we're struggling for any sort of civil issue at a later date. Any details and making off without payment, yeah. So I've explained if he does give us his details and we know where he is and we can contact him at a later date, hopefully this issue can get resolved. No. He's obviously not really wanting to do that at the minute.
Because it's a civil issue and it's nothing for the police to get involved in.
But you're still going to make off, aren't you? Technically without payment, but if we can get your details...
But I have paid.
But you haven't...
And it is their policy to accept the £20 coin.
Has he paid?
Policy? No, he hasn't.
Right, if you haven't paid and if you walk out the door now...
They've still got the money though.
Just let me finish. If you walk out that door now, you are liable for an arrest because we don't have your details.
But you don't need them.
Well, I do.
Because it's a civil issue.
But it's not, because a make off without payment is then a police matter.
The second officer arrives and immediately escalates the situation, jumping straight to threats of arrest. It's completely unjustified. The auditor was still inside the store, making no attempt to leave, and actively disputing the payment. There's no making off without payment because he never left, and there was clearly no intent to avoid paying. Her threat becomes even more pointless when you consider the auditor had already attempted to pay with a £20 Royal Mint coin, which the cashier refused. That alone destroys any suggestion he was trying to evade payment. Under the Theft Act, both the act of leaving and an intent to avoid payment must exist. Neither applies here. By twisting a civil disagreement into a criminal matter simply because she didn't get his details, the officer exposed a complete lack of understanding of the law.
So if you walk out that door now, it is. If you walk out that door now, you'll be getting arrested for make off without payment.
But there is an agreement with BP that
Is there any
the
other
coin
way?
can be used.
Is there any other way that you can pay? Because we're going to sit here for hours arguing. I've been quite respectful to you. I appreciate you have to a degree, and I appreciate that from yourself. You haven't been argumentative with me, and I appreciate that you've been a normal human being.
No,
however, we need
I don't
a
intend to.
solution.
No,
I appreciate
if you
that.
can pay for the fuel now by other means, then that's fair enough. It'll be the end of the matter.
Or if you can give us your details, and we can deal with it at a slow time, we can offer you that. But if you're not willing to do either any, then we're struggling with what we have left to do.
Because we can't let you walk out that door without paying. But
We don't know where you live. You might not even be from around here. I'm not saying you are, but you know what I mean. We have people where they'll make off and then they won't give us our details, and then we're going to struggle. I'm still going to have that £20 of fuel, unfortunately, with this BP garage outstanding.
Which car is it?
But I have paid for the fuel.
But you haven't paid for the fuel. Which one?
Right, we're going round in circles, aren't we?
We are, unfortunately, yeah. We've agreed, we've reasoned with you now, and we've tried to say that if you give us your details, just tell you where you live, we'll deal with it slow time. However, you then leave, you don't have your details, you don't know where you live, you could live in London for all we know, and then there's still this making off without payment because they will not accept this as payment.
But I don't have to identify for a civil issue.
It technically isn't a civil issue though, is it, when you leave and you don't pay? You haven't paid for your fuel. We've got the payment here, which isn't acceptable, so really you haven't paid at the minute.
The entire exchange is built on a false premise. The officers keep warning if you leave, as if the auditor is about to run off without paying, but that moment never actually happened. He remained inside the store, still engaging, and had already attempted to pay with a Royal Mint coin. They weren't reacting to his behavior, they were reacting to a scenario they imagined. That's not policing, that's fiction. Their claim that they couldn't confirm his identity without forcing him to provide ID is just as weak. His number plate was right outside, offering a lawful and immediate way to verify details if they truly felt it was necessary. Instead, they ignored the obvious solution and doubled down on demands they had no power to make, turning a simple civil dispute into supposed grounds for arrest. They weren't resolving the situation, they were inflating it.
Well, I have, because I've handed the coin over. Right. So I haven't got that in my possession, and I've contacted BP head office before coming here.
Right, and was that today then, or?
No.
So when was that then? So you've contacted BP head office before you've come in?
Correct.
Right, so was it to contact them today, or was it yesterday, or last week, or?
It's not up to me to say that.
How's it money?
Do you understand what the £20 coin is?
No, that's why I'm confused.
Well, why are you threatening me for arrest then, if you don't know?
Because it's not money.
It is.
Right. We'll agree to disagree. At the end
you don't know that. It is. It's legal tender, the same as a £20 note and a £10 note.
Right, and who did you speak to from the BP garage, the manager?
It's a Royal Mint who issued that £20 coin.
Right. Okay.
So it's the same money as any other money.
If you get someone on the phone to me who you've spoken to earlier, then we could kind of end the matter here, can't we?
Well, if it's a civil issue, I don't need to assist you.
But at the minute we don't know it's a civil matter.
But I don't need to assist you in a civil issue.
But you do, because it then turns into a police matter because we don't know that coin.
The auditor had already done more than enough by pointing out that BP themselves confirmed the coin was valid. That should have ended the situation immediately. Instead, the officer twisted it into a demand, insisting he personally call BP or it would become a police matter. That's nonsense. He has no legal obligation to do the officer's job for her, and refusing to comply doesn't magically turn a civil dispute into a criminal offense. A police officer's role is to assess the facts and apply the law, not shift the burden onto a citizen to prove themselves. Her follow-up comment, "We don't know that coin," only weakens her position further. A £20 Royal Mint coin is legal tender. If the officers don't recognize it, that's their issue, not the auditor's.
But if
You're
it's a civil
running the risk of
agreement,
being arrested because you haven't given us the details, and you're going to walk out that door, and it's technically a failure to pay.
but then it'll be a
Make off
civil.
without payment.
But then I'll sue you.
Well, that's
So,
fine. If you want to sue us, that's fine.
unlawful
But
arrest.
like I said, we've been honest with you in terms of which way we can go. The staff here have been very honest, okay? And all I'm saying
Well, he
is, if you
hasn't.
get the person on the phone who you spoke to earlier with the agreement, then that could be the end of the matter. But
you
as
know-
far as I do, then technically, if you walk out the door, it's going to be make off without payment.
He's already accepted to take it.
You haven't accepted to take it. No, haven't accepted to take it. You walk out that door, becomes a criminal matter, and you get arrested for make off without payment.
You give us your details.
You're refusing to give us your details, and we don't know that vehicle is yours because you're not.
But I've told you
Is it urgent?
that he said he would take the coin
But he isn't out.
if I take my mask off.
Right, well I wasn't here for that, so we have no witnesses, unfortunately, other than you and him. Right now I can't view that.
Body camera.
But right now I can't view that. At the end of the day, you've come in, you've paid for
Yeah,
you've
yeah.
got your fuel, you've come in. This isn't a payable matter. Once you leave, we've offered you to give us your details and deal with it that way. For all I know, that vehicle could register somebody else and lived in London. And how are we ever going to trace you?
But I don't
Once
need
you
to
leave
assist
this
you.
situation, it is making off without payment. I can't be any more reasonable with you and give you some sort of options that we can go.
But I
with,
don't
but you're
need
still
to assist
refusing
you.
to. Are you offering to give
Because
the
you're
staff, not myself, not my colleague, the staff your name and contact number?
No.
Right, so we have one option, but two will lock you up then.
Well, I've got a civil agreement in the
No, no,
background.
no.
You can
So-
prove that
You
at
can
court.
I've
You
got
prove
that.
that at court.
That's
then.
fine. You can prove that
Yeah.
at court.
Right, well, this moment in time, you're currently under arrest for making off without payment. You don't
I
have to
haven't-
say anything,
but I haven't made off.
Defense. We don't mention one question to the letter line court. Anything you do is a negative evidence.
But I haven't made off
That's
though.
for your arrest as a prompted and factual investigation. Okay?
But I haven't made off.
That you're under caution as well.
And due to the fact you failed to provide data.
But I haven't made off.
Fails to provide details, yeah.
But I haven't made off.
Right, are we going to go calmly? We're going to go quietly?
We would go calmly all the time.
Okay, well, do you want to walk with us then?
Of course.
Thank you. Come with me, sir, please. Have you got anything in your pockets that's going to harm me or you? Just take them out. It's just a question we ask everybody.
Can we just take your camera off as well, please?
This is where the situation shifts from incompetence to outright abuse. The officers arrest the auditor for making off without payment while he's literally still standing inside the store telling them, "I haven't made off." That one sentence should have ended the entire incident. The law is crystal clear. The offense requires leaving without paying. He hadn't left, wasn't attempting to leave, and explicitly stated so. Yet they still pushed ahead with the arrest. Legally, it's indefensible. The Theft Act requires two elements, the act of leaving and the intent to avoid payment. Neither existed. The auditor had already offered a valid form of payment and was actively engaged in the dispute. The offense they relied on simply didn't exist, and they knew it. Now, Auditor IP provides an update on his claim.
About 10 months ago, I walked out of those gates after being falsely arrested for using the £20 coin. The Chief Constable has paid out £4,000 in compensation, but unfortunately he did not apologise at any point, even taking him to court. He went all the way to court, we had the hearing date, and then the Chief Constable saw some sense and paid £4,000 in compensation, but no apology.
The case eventually went to court, and the auditor walked away with £3,999 in damages plus legal costs. That's not a token payout, that's a clear acknowledgement that what happened should never have occurred. Once the incident was examined legally, the police had no way to defend their actions. They settled because they had no choice. But what makes the outcome even more damning is what happened after. According to the auditor, the Chief Constable never offered an apology. The force handed over thousands of pounds of taxpayer money, silently admitting fault with their wallet, yet couldn't muster a single word of accountability. That silence says everything. It reveals a culture where protecting the institution matters more than doing the right thing. This entire case shows how a minor civil disagreement over a coin spiraled into a wrongful arrest because officers relied on ego and authority instead of law and common sense. They kept inventing justifications as they went along, warning him about walking out without paying despite the fact he never tried to leave. The officers weren't responding to reality, they were responding to a scenario they had imagined. That's not policing. That's intimidation dressed up as law enforcement. And that's the real problem here. When officers default to threats, detainment, and arrest instead of patience and proper procedure, they don't just fail the person in front of them, they damage public trust. If a situation this small can turn into misconduct, what does that say about larger encounters? In the end, taxpayers pay nearly £4,000 for an arrest that never should have happened, and the leadership stayed silent. No apology. No ownership. Just a payout and a hope it would go away. And that silence tells you exactly where the priorities are: protect the image, not fix the behavior.